A 3 a.m. post from Donald Trump only means one thing, and that is that he is panicked and knows it's over. And of course it is. Republicans are already filing articles of impeachment for Pam Bondi because she, alongside Donald Trump, has broken the law. And they know what accountability is coming in the new year, not just from their party, but from their voters and voters across America, because Donald Trump last night went to North Carolina, a state that he desperately needs victories in, and saw what's coming. Not just accountability from the law, but accountability in the midterms. We're going to get into it all in the insane post that Trump made after his rally was a disaster and after he was hit with an Epstein bombshell. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you, leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into why Donald Trump melted down and the insane 3 a.m. post he made because of that meltdown, I want to start with all the context that we need from last night's Epstein drop of a very small number of files that still exposed and implicated Donald Trump. Chris Hayes broke down right here.
From shutting the entire House of Representatives down for months to not swearing in a duly elected member so she couldn't sign the discharge petition, to at the last minute browbeating their own allies like Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, who was brought into the Situation Room. And ultimately none of that worked. The law passed both houses. Donald Trump was forced into signing it clearly against his will. And so today, on the day of the deadline, they have released some and only some of the documents that they were required by that law to release. Thousands of documents, including scores of photographs of Epstein's properties, including massage rooms, along with photos of young women and vacation locales, and notably former President Bill Clinton. Now, we should note here, these are all just photos. We don't know the context in which any of them are taken, but President Clinton appears in several photos alongside Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and redacted persons. In one image, Clinton appears with a redacted woman sitting on his lap. You just saw that. In another, he is with a redacted person in a jacuzzi. In response, President Clinton's spokesperson released a statement reading in part, quote, "The White House hasn't been hiding these files for months, only to dump them late on a Friday to protect Bill Clinton. This is about shielding themselves from what comes next or from what they'll try and hide forever." It certainly does appear that photos of many other men have been blacked out. There are a ton of redactions, entire documents like the one you see here, completely blacked out. And not just documents. Faces are blacked out, but not always consistently. DOJ said they blacked out the faces of victims and minors, which I think everyone agrees and the law requires them to do. They also appear to be some grown men whose identities are obscured. And get this. Sources tell Fox News that more than a dozen politically exposed people and government officials' names appear in the hundreds of thousands of pages of Jeffrey Epstein files made public Friday. And in addition to protecting the victims' identities, Fox reported that the same redaction standards were applied to politically exposed individuals and government officials. If that is true, it is illegal, flatly. The federal law at issue, the one that has brought us to this point, is clear. The Department of Justice cannot redact information solely because its release might harm an individual's reputation. And if they did redact politically exposed individuals, why did they release more than a dozen photos and documents relating to Bill Clinton? I think we know, right? We're not idiots. In fact, he seems to appear more than any other public figure, including in this social media post by a White House spokeswoman suggesting the media investigate Clinton's well-documented encounters with Epstein. Now, Donald Trump's relationship with Epstein is well documented. We have all seen the pictures of the two men together. We all remember the quote that he gave the reporter who wrote a profile Epstein about how much he loves women and how they're on the younger side. And we all know about the birthday card. Donald Trump denies writing it and sued about it, but the one where he talks about them having secrets and age being nothing but a number. Why does Donald Trump hardly appear in this trove of documents, except in one photo we've all seen in a desk of Epstein's? Do you think that's an accident when it was his Justice Department who was going through them? I mean, we don't know. We do know this isn't all the Epstein files. In fact, today the DOJ admitted that they are, again, flatly violating the law.
Pam Bondi had a month, and before that, she had many, many, many more months. She still couldn't get it done. She broke the law to cover up for Donald Trump and still wasn't even able to do that. The point of this delay was to further redact, to further protect Donald Trump, and still, photos, documents slipped through the cracks that implicated him. This was an obstruction of justice that didn't even succeed in obstructing what Donald Trump wanted hidden from the public. When you hire a Fox News administration, you get Fox News results. And if there's anyone who should want Pam Bondi's impeachment, at this point, it's Donald Trump. I wouldn't be surprised if he filed the articles himself, because she has completely screwed him over. And everybody knows it. And everybody is ready to pounce on the opportunity for accountability, which needs to be shown. It is the only thing that these guys respond to, is fear and intimidation. And it is why we saw these announcements from Senator Adam Schiff, from Ro Khanna, and from, of course, Thomas Massie, that led to an insane post from Donald Trump. Republican Congressman Thomas Massie and Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna plan to draft articles of impeachment against Pam Bondi over the DOJ's failure to release all Epstein files as required by law. And Adam Schiff said yesterday with Nicole Wallace, "I think we ought to bring Pam Bondi before the Senate Judiciary Committee, demand answers as to why the DOJ has violated the law." And after a long day of bad news for Trump and an even worse rally, he wrote early in the morning, just leaving North Carolina, where the crowd was amazing. They will hopefully be voting for Michael Whatley to be the next senator. His opponent, former Governor Roy Cooper, is a radical left lunatic who let the people of North Carolina down, especially in a time of need. Heading to Florida with lots of meetings scheduled. Tremendous announcement today in the White House on most favored nation drug pricing. There has never been anything like it in the medical world. Prices are now dropping at levels never before seen. This alone should win the midterms for Republicans. No Democrat could come close to doing it. Prices will be dropping 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, and even 800% on the plane. I just got to watch Jake Paul fight, and he did really well, especially as a display of great courage against a very talented and large Anthony Joshua. What? Fantastic entertainment, but kudos to Jake for his stamina and frankly ability against a much bigger man. Huh? Donald Trump is talking about the Jake Paul fight in his closing message of why Michael Whatley, who is going to get just absolutely obliterated in North Carolina by Roy Cooper, should be their next senator. Donald Trump didn't sell anything to the people of North Carolina last night. He went in, he ranted, he raved, he attacked Hillary Clinton, he attacked Jasmine Crockett, he talked about how many times he takes cognitive tests, and he tried to distract everyone in that very small crowd, by the way, and we talked about it. It is a teeny tiny crowd, teeny little tiny crowd. And Donald Trump tried to distract them from the fact that he is a criminal whose best friend of 10, 15, we can call it 20 years because it seemed like they were hanging out on the side. Jeffrey Epstein was a pedo. And it tells us a lot about Donald Trump, considering how much we learned about his disgusting behavior towards little girls in those files. And all the while, Megyn Kelly was trying to tell us. Remember, Megyn Kelly was trying to tell us? Well, no, it's not really children that Epstein was having around him, was abusing. They were teenagers. It's different. Really, Megyn Kelly? Because I saw a lot of photos of kids. And now Donald Trump is going to have to answer for that. And again, as I'll continue to say, what should make us so, I think anxious might be the word for what comes next, and worried just about how deep this goes, is if all the photos that we saw last night were just the tip of the iceberg, if that's what Pam Bondi was okay with us seeing, if that's what she wanted us to see, and that was just 1% of the Epstein files, if that's what she was okay with us seeing, those disgusting images, what comes next? What is Trump involved in? What else are we going to learn? What are we going to learn about the cover-up that happened in the first administration? Because the Epstein file isn't just full of emails between Epstein and his associates, photos, disgusting videos of Epstein abusing girls. There also has to be some conversation that transpired under the first Trump administration. All right, Epstein was arrested and prosecuted. He was put in jail. He died mysteriously. Was there not some conversation in the DOJ around his death that we're going to see? Won't that also be in the Epstein file? I haven't seen any emails from Bill Barr. I haven't seen any emails about Alex Acosta. I haven't seen any emails about Alan Dershowitz. So are those coming? Is that what they're so afraid of? What was hidden in the first term? Because in my mind, it is. That's what they're so afraid of. Because if they went this far to cover it all up, how far have they already gone? Those are the questions that I want to ask. Those are the questions that Jamie Raskin is certainly asking, and he did right here.
What I've seen looks like my weekly recycling pile, except heavily redacted, in some places absolutely redacted. But the point that this survivor and all the survivors have been making is absolutely right. I mean, this is a huge tug of war over whether there will be truth and justice and accountability for the predators here. Look, I think that New York Times article makes clear to anybody who hasn't already been convinced of it that these were scenes of absolute predatory bacchanalia and exploitation of women and girls. And the question is now, what will the government do about it? And we saw how Donald Trump just switched sides at the last minute to say, oh, yeah, everybody vote for this, figuring that they would proceed to sandbag and undermine the disclosure, which they have done. Everything was supposed to be released today. And, you know, back in July, they told us there was nothing left to see there. And in September, Kash Patel testified before our committee, and he said, yeah, we didn't find any potential evidence of any other crimes, which means they've already been through it. And now suddenly they're postponing and, you know, they're prevaricating and, you know, making up excuses all the way. So it's going to be a fight to get this stuff out and to see justice for the survivors who have been very much driving this train, and also to see accountability for whatever other criminals are out there, people who cooperated with Ghislaine Maxwell and with Jeffrey Epstein.
So I can't see what the upside is for Kash Patel and Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche to be involved in this. It seems that Dan Bongino has made a decision that he's not going to stick around the FBI because he doesn't feel like being involved in this. They don't have the same protections that the President of the United States has. What Ro Khanna was talking about, things can be pursued, of them if they are not telling the truth.
Well, that's true, except that, Donald Trump is passing out pardons like Christmas cookies right now. So if you're in for a dime, you're in for a dollar. At this point, given how much they've gone along as accomplices in this cover-up, they figure they're better off just doing whatever Donald Trump tells them to do so that there might be, a pardon waiting somewhere over the rainbow for them. So I think, that they're going to continue to stick around. Others like Bongino are like members of a religious cult who wake up on the basement floor one day and say to themselves, somewhere I took a wrong turn, and now look where my life is. And
the cover-up goes much deeper than we ever could have imagined, which is why we have to be so persistent in calling it out. And I'm going to on this show, and if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.